know, this is my old stomping ground and home away from home. Before I moved to Cisco, I lived for many years in Chicago, and it's a great pleasure to be back here. So Blair talked about how the nature of work is going to change in the future, how we have to prepare the next generation innovators to meet this challenge. There is a lot about the Internet of Things and Internet of Everything that we have yet to discover and yet to innovate. But there is one thing we do know for sure, and that is the pace of change that we are all experiencing, no matter where we live or what work we do, is unprecedented. And so what's causing all this change, right? What's causing all this change is really the exponential differential we are seeing in technology, the advancements in technology, the cost of bandwidth, the cost of storage, the cost of compute, the cost of sensors, and the efficiency, the power, the processing capability, the storage capability is all driving us to do a lot of things on digital platforms that we used to do physically. So if you look at all of these companies, you can kind of say they're all disruptors. Amazon started off as a bookseller, and they've now expanded into a broader retail. And now they can deliver groceries or IT as a service. And so just think about that. That paradigm is unbelievable. And Uber and Lyft are really providing us transportation on demand, right? Majority of the expensive cities is cars driving around looking for parking. Causes parking. Issues. Traffic issues. I live about a mile away from here. It took me 40 minutes to take a taxi, actually, from my home to here. So how can we change that? And all of this is going to be driven on digital platforms. So these companies, the one thing they have in common is their businesses built on digital platforms. And as Blair said, the future is really going to be a future where every company becomes a digital company. So what does that mean? That means we now have to be prepared with new capabilities, not only technological capabilities, but new business capabilities, because there will be a demand for these new capabilities going forward. So if I kind of look at all that and say, what will be the set of new capabilities, new demands that will be placed on all of us as we look at our businesses and change our businesses to be much more digitally centric and digitally savvy. Essentially, we have to drive real-time decision making, which brings us to having analytics at the edge, where the source of the data, we have to apply analytics, and not only apply analytics, turn those into better business processes. And not only that, we have to do this at massive scale. The reason companies like Amazon are able to scale is because they serve millions and millions of users, and therefore they can optimize the user experience. But we have to do this without compromising security and privacy. So as we are doing analytics, we have to be sensitive to what information we have access to and how we are approaching those analytics. By the way, and we'll see a whole lot of new businesses that we don't even know, we haven't even thought about. So that's the challenge for innovation. And the only way that we can do this is by focusing on industry-specific solutions, which will allow us to get that real-time decision-making, real-time analytics, understand the security, because security in a oil and gas industry is different from security in a media company. So you have to have the vertical industry knowledge to be able to do those kinds of things. At the same time, we can achieve scale only if we standardize horizontal platforms and think about scaling technology in a horizontal way. So the new model for innovation in the future is going to be, how do we do this in parallel? how do we develop industry vertical solutions focused on each industry at the same time scale horizontal platforms and drive standardization where it makes sense. So how do we do that? So at Cisco, we've taken the approach that we can only do this through an ecosystem. So we are proposing, and we've launched 3 different initiatives to address this industry-specific solutions. And I'm going to actually walk through each of these things. The first thing we did is we set up IoE innovation centers globally. Then we announced an investment fund. We have a dedicated investment fund of $100 million, money we want to give away to all of you to create startups and prosper and drive the industry forward. There's no ties attached when we invest in companies. That intellectual property does not belong to Cisco. We simply want to foster the ecosystem of innovations. And thirdly, we believe we have to enable applications, because applications is really what drives value for us in the industry. So we currently have 6 innovation centers globally. So far, the most recent ones are in London and Berlin. We also believe, I think Blair talked about this, IoE, or the transformation to the Internet of Everything, is going to happen globally. It's not just developed countries, it's not just emerging countries. And so the purpose of these innovation centers is threefold. In these innovation centers, these are hubs where we work jointly with many of you, our customers and our partners, to bring solutions to a proof of concept stage. And then also make long-term bets, things that we haven't thought about, like security. How are we going to deal with the challenge of security going forward? So we do both short-term focused solutions as well as long-term bets. So that's one way you can engage with us, and one way we are driving vertical solutions. Our investment fund that I talked about focuses essentially on all layers of the stack: silicon, infrastructure, platform, and applications. So here's just a sampling of the companies we've so far invested in. If any of you are in the audience, and by the way, we, I think, have a booth where we are showcasing our portfolio companies. So go check them out. These are going to be the future businesses, we hope, that are going to innovate with us as we go towards vertical solutions. The other thing we're doing is enabling developers to create applications uniquely on a Cisco platform. Because the one thing that has changed, if you think about the last decade, what will be the next decade, is in the next decade, applications have to talk to the infrastructure directly without going through the middlemen or the middleware. You know, in the old model of a client server, we always had a middleware communicating the applications with the infrastructure. Going forward, I said speed is going to be important. Applications have to directly communicate with the infrastructure, and Cisco is enabling that by opening APIs and creating programmable, application-centric infrastructure where applications can be communicating their requirements directly to the infrastructure. So the way developers, those of you that are developers or have developers in your organization, can take advantage of this capability is through the Cisco portal, by leveraging and using Cisco APIs, as well as testing and building software and testing it, creating applications in our sandbox. So those are different ways that developers can engage within Cisco to create vertically focused solutions. And we also believe that where possible, we have to innovate with local talent. So here in Chicago, we've partnered with 2 organizations, 1871, which is an innovation hub. And Cisco has been a sponsoring company here. And this Sunday, we had a hackathon. And in a moment, I'm going to announce the winners of that hackathon. And we launched something called the EIR program, or Entrepreneur in Residence program, at the Chicago Innovation Exchange for a company that's come out of University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign that's looking at a way to monitor infrastructure remotely for IoT. And so these are the kinds of things we are doing across the board geographically in all regions of the world. What about horizontal technology platforms? everything I talked about said, vertically we have to innovate solutions, applications, how these applications can communicate with the infrastructure. Well, horizontally, if you think about what will the IoT world look like, we have created a body of thought leaders from the IoT World Forum for enabling guidelines for architectures. So these group of thought leaders, whose company names you can see on this list, have come up with what we call the IoT World Forum reference model. We had a press release about this yesterday. I think there is a breakout session at 4:45 today on this topic. And I want to caution everyone, this is a reference model, it's not an architecture model. And so what does a reference model do? Why does it help us? It helps us use common vocabulary when we are talking about components that we all have to build. So I like to always compare the analogy of the mobile world, right? So I used to work at a mobile company before. Before we started using the cell phone, which was originally intended as a person-to-person communication, voice communication device, it's now a mobile internet platform, right? So what happened in that transition? We had to create new chip architectures that were low power. We had to create new operating systems. iOS and Android didn't exist before 6 years ago. We had to create new operating systems, and we had to create applications. Similarly, when we think about IoT, we have to innovate at all layers in the stack, all the way from the silicon level, the physical devices, to the applications on top. And we have to communicate using a common language. So Cisco has taken the first step. As far as we know, this is the very first IoT reference model that exists in the industry today. And the intent we have is to contribute this back into the consortium so people can use the same language. The reference model also, by the way, brings together the boundaries between IT and OT that Blair talked about. One of the things as companies become digital companies, operations technologies have to now start being built on information technology platforms. So things like automation, robotics, all of this sensor data has to go into an IT fabric. However, as we change different devices at the edge, we can't go back and change the whole IT platform, or the CIO will have a breakdown, nervous breakdown, and worse things, right? So we have to be able to create this edgeware to communicate uniquely with the software. And that's what the boundary layer we have to work on that brings these two things together. And so that's really the reason why this reference model is important, and why we encourage all of you to adopt this reference model as you innovate and build solutions. One of the components that's going to go through massive change is the compute at the edge, and we call this fog computing, as Blair mentioned. So why is this important? If you think about the Internet of Things, there's a lot of sensors and devices that are going to connect to the network. But a lot of times we have to be able to analyze that data quickly and turn it back into insights very quickly. Therefore, we have to have capability for compute storage network at the source where these devices are connecting. Oftentimes, we won't be able to afford ourselves the luxury of taking everything back into the data center or to the cloud. However, we've learned a lot in the evolution in the data center as we moved from physical resources to virtualized cloud resources. We, Cisco, are now taking all of that learning and applying that to the edge. So all of the cloud compute concepts about virtualization, scale, distributed compute, enabling convergence between storage network, take all of that learning and apply that to the edge. And that's what really fog is all about. So how does this help you, or how does this help our business partners? So I have 3 examples, and I'll walk you through one of them in the interest of time. The example I want to walk you through is preventive maintenance in logistics. So in this example, there are going to be a lot of sensors, and all of that data from the sensors is going to go into a fog computing node, and that node can be roadside, it can be on a riverside if it happens to be a cruise liner or a ship carrying utility stuff on top of it, or it can be a railroad. So the edge node can really be anywhere, and that edge node is then going to process all of that information from the sensors, turn analytics back, and where it's necessary, send stuff back to the data center. So we're not limited in terms of bandwidth efficiency and the delay caused by sending the network back. The network actually makes that decision, what gets processed at the edge and what gets taken to the cloud. So that's an example of the benefit of the fog computing architecture that we've created. So how do we build an ecosystem? We know we have a lot of smart people working at Cisco. We have 20-some thousand engineers, Blair and Wim, within Cisco, but we also know there's many smart people outside of Cisco, and we want to make sure that we are tapping into the intelligence that exists outside of the boundaries of our company. So we announced something that we call Grand Challenges for IoT in 2014, and we received over 1,000 entries for all of these Grand Challenges. So the first Grand Challenge we announced had to do with security. If you think about security, right? As 50 billion devices come online, the surface area for attack is now gone up exponentially. So it's a great thing that everything is connected, but it's a bad thing that everything is connected. So how are we going to solve the security Grand Challenge? So we've had lots of submissions, over 100 submissions from 33 different countries, and we've had the envious task of picking through all of these. And today we are announcing 4 winners who are winners and who will receive several benefits from Cisco for participating in this challenge. And the 4 winners are Excalibur Group. This company is actually from Slovakia, and they've come up with an identity framework that combines context and uses graph theory and other sophisticated solutions like that. Jacobs Cornell University, my alum, I'm from Cornell, and Rice, that had nothing to do with why we picked them. And Rice University jointly submitted a proposal for identifying the physical presence of nodes on the network. And then we had Carnegie Mellon University, who's looking at fog and thinking about securing the fog in a different way. And AirCloak and the Max Planck Institute actually is looking at also how do we apply analytics without compromising privacy. In a minute, we'll come back and congratulate all the winners, but that's the security challenge. The second challenge we had was the Innovation Grand Challenge. And here we had over 800 submissions from 71 countries. And we are today announcing 3 winners for this area. And the companies that, here we actually have first, second, and third prizes. The winner is a company called Relay R. I think I'm pronouncing the company name correctly. And they basically keep track of using logistics and enabling mobility with IoT using that. And Vegam, which is enabling mobile capabilities for applications. And Toymail, my most favorite one. Blair will like that. She has young children. That's putting IoT for children in toys and enabling different ways that we can use technology to not only amuse and entertain children, but hopefully educate them. We then had a IoT Grand Challenge in China, where we had over 35 cities in China participate with over 100 submissions. And we have selected 2 winners from that group. And the 2 winners that we have selected are a company called Mash5, which is a cloud-based platform for tracking and analyzing technologies, and Zillion Source, which does fleet tracking and logistics management. So those are the winners. And by the way, I said hackathon. We had a hackathon on Sunday, believe it or not, at 1871. We had 14 teams that participated. And I know on Twitter they were all sending me messages. So here are the winners from the hackathon. Fleetmatics, GeoAnimaniacs, and Simon Says AIoT. I think they deserve prizes just for the names. I don't know who comes up with these names, but congratulations to all of you. And the next thing we are doing, actually today, we are announcing, this is my favorite topic, and Blair's too. Blair and I would love to see more women in IoT and in general in technology. So we are announcing a grand challenge by young women to create solutions and technologies in the Internet of Things. We're launching that challenge today. The winners will be chosen next year. You have 1 year. So I encourage all of you, if you have great women in your organizations, you know great women, you want to mentor great women, encourage all of them to take part in our competition. We are very passionate, and I am personally very passionate about getting more women into technology. So I want to now take a moment. Many of our winners are here. They have traveled from all over the world. If we could just celebrate all of their innovations. If I could have you guys stand up. Stand up. You want to stand up? All right, they're all sitting right here in the front. So I talked a lot about how innovation is changing. Really, we have to focus in the future, in the era of the Internet of Things, on innovating both along the vertical axis, because that's where the domain knowledge about the industries and the businesses lies. At the same time, create horizontal technology platforms and drive standardization where possible, because without standardization, without horizontal platforms, we will not be able to scale that innovation. And I said massive scale is one of the key demands going forward. Now, how does this all come together? We do need to think about how work is changing and how innovation is changing. So to help me explain to you how we plan to bring all this together, I'd like to have Blair join me back up on stage. Thank you, Blair.
It goes a really long way. Thanks.
So I talked about how innovation really in the future has to be vertically focused but built on horizontal platforms. And we also know that we can't do everything within the walls of Cisco, much as we think we're the smartest people on the planet.
Sure.
So we are leveraging the scale as much as we can bring through grand challenges, through investments, through startups, so that we can combine all of the ideas around the world to make innovation happen and support the speed that you were talking about.
Absolutely. I think what really has struck us is not just this incredible gap in what we need versus the capabilities we have today. Some of these numbers are staggering, the one I used in the US alone. And as Wim talked about yesterday, this importance of a talent consortium, because we know where we need to go and where we are today. But I think what is even more phenomenal to learn is the focus on every company, as you said, becoming a digital company. I mean, that is where everyone's head is at right now. You saw that in some of the data that I showed. It's not just about the things and the connections. It's really making sure we take everything, every aspect of work, whether it's the people or the engagement, every moment, and digitize them to create that value. That's the opportunity. It can't happen without a new framework for innovation.
That's great. And we do recognize that this is not something a single company can do.
Absolutely.
We are absolutely committed to bringing that our capabilities to help all of you build solutions, but we want to participate with you in adopting the reference model, in understanding what the fog computing differential is about, and helping us create solutions and applications on our platform.
Absolutely, and this is one of the best ways to do that. So we look forward to seeing all of you at the 3rd annual IoT World Forum, where we continue to come together and build this as an ecosystem.
And we're going to have more women in our audience.
A lot more women, absolutely. We got
Thank
two
you
now.
so much.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President of New Growth Businesses for Zebra Technologies, Phil Gerskovich.